without further ado, what I would like to do now is make sure that you give a warm Screen Actors Guild welcome to Mr. Omar Sharif.
Thank you. I want first just to say how happy I am to be here in this crowd of my colleagues.
Yes.
That unfortunately, I hope to be still around and work with some of them, you know, when we make films together. I can see some people with some gray hair, so I have a chance.
Yes, indeed. Well, you've been at this for many, many years. How have you seen the industry change over the span of your
You know, the industry changes in the same way as the world changes. The audience is much younger now of the films. The older people watch television. They don't want to be bothered to go out and get tickets, and they watch TV, and the kids go out to the movies so that they don't stay with their parents in the same house.
Exactly.
That's the main idea.
Yes.
I take their girlfriends and boyfriends and go and watch a movie and maybe have a snack when they come out. So that's a nice evening.
Yeah.
Listen, this is my 50th year as a professional actor. I feel like a piece of Egyptian antiquity. I asked them to put me in the Cairo Museum. They refused. They said, "We'll wait till you're a mummy." Anyway, being an actor has its ups and many, 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 many downs, I warn you. The downs are terrible. They really, you get a few ups, and it's difficult to get a lot of ups. There are people who get a lot of ups, but they're very fortunate and very talented. But for a person who wants to be an actor, like I did when I was a kid, it's very difficult. There are so many imponderable things. First of all, you have to be extremely lucky to get an opportunity. Not any opportunity. You have to have an opportunity in a film that does well. If you're even mediocre in a film that makes money, you work again. But if you're brilliant in a film that doesn't make money, you're dead, if that's the thing. And also, what is required is that you should never be swayed from the idea of wanting to be actor, despite all the downs that are going to happen. If you're going to succeed, it will be with a lot of determination. I remember my parents didn't want me to be an actor. They wouldn't hear of it. In those days, in Egypt, it was considered something very shameful to be an artiste, an actor.
Why?
Because it was something for vulgar people, to be an actor. Normal people were merchants, which I think is the most vulgar thing in the whole world. My dad was a timber merchant, and I was the only son, and the dream of his life was to put on his store, Mr. Shalhoub and Son. That was my real name. And I frustrated him terribly by not accepting. I wanted to be an actor. That's all I wanted to be. And with this kind of willpower, you have a chance. If you don't have that willpower, you don't have a chance. I think it is preferable to try and discourage people from being actors, because if in spite of the discouragement, they go on persevering, then they have a chance to get there with a bit of luck and a lot of hard work, of course. That we all know that hard work is the main quality that is needed. Some talent, but what is talent? It's so difficult to define talent. Talent, it's so diverse. Some people have talent for a certain type of part. Some people have they cannot get out of the mold that they are in. You know, they can do one thing or they can do two things if they're lucky. Talent, is it to be able to do 10 things, 12 things? I don't know. No one knows what talent is and what it is that creates talent. I don't know what talent is. I really don't.
How did you know that you had talent, or when did you first become aware that you had?
I'm not aware of it now. That's why I'm talking. That's why
We
I'm
could put it
talking
to a
about
vote
it.
here
So,
tonight.
no, but it doesn't matter. What matters
Yeah.
is what I think about myself.
Right,
I,
right.
I am not convinced
You're not
yet.
Not yet.
No, but I have a lot of time ahead of me.
That's right.
I'm only 71 and 7 months.
Young.
Oh.
Yes. So with a little more work, you might develop that
Yes,
talent, huh?
I'm
Yeah, a little
getting
more
there.
time.
I'm getting much better. Already in this film, I'm better than I was before. Right, a little bit.
Do you feel like you continue to learn your
Yes.
craft?
You know, in this film, we have a young boy who it was his first film. He was 14, 15 when we cast him. And so I told this boy to come and work with me a little bit in my hotel suite. And I got an acting coach to watch us. And I decided that the best way to learn for a young boy, acting in general, you know, was to be together and play, imagine situations and improvise. This little improvisations with a boy, it's like a game. I say, imagine you're so and so, and I'm so and so, and you're asking me this, and I'm refusing, and you've got to convince me. Whatever it is, situations. And I advise the coach to tell me very often that I'm lousy and tell him sometimes that he's not doing it right. So that he's not complex, that, you know, that he's being yelled at all the time. And it worked marvelous. But the boy is he's talented. He's a monster.
he is
He's
amazing.
going to be a big star. And because after 2 weeks of shooting, he was telling me how to act. I mean, he was telling me, I don't like that. I don't like the way you did this. He meant it, you know. I said, why didn't you know? What did I do wrong? He would have said, that's not right. You're not playing the situation. I said, not? Okay.
Well, he had a very
You'll
good
see,
teacher.
he's brilliant.
He is brilliant. He is brilliant. Do you often approach a role by using improvisation and
No,
No.
I don't. But in general, I think it's a good way to learn the idea of not, whenever we did improvisations, but nothing to do with the parts in the film. We kept well away from that. I think it's good to practice improvisation because you have to play a situation. That's the important thing. It's not easy to imagine if you know nothing about acting that what is important is to play a situation, you know, and to be convincing in it, you know, to believe in the situation you're playing. And these improvisations are good because you have to make up your own words. They're not words that are forced upon you by a writer. Then when the words are there and you don't have to even worry about inventing words, it becomes easier in a way because somebody has done half the work for you already by putting those, if he's a good writer. If he's a bad writer, you're dead. Or, there's so many cases you're dead. I keep saying this, but it's true. I have died so many deaths that I speak about it all the time.
Donna Hyatt, one of our members here tonight, asks Mr. Sharif, you were retired from film before this movie. What made you select this role as Ibrahim?
Well, I hadn't retired, but I had made so many very bad films for the last 30 years. Sounds like a lot, but remember, I've been 50 years in the business, so there were 20 years which were fair, which isn't bad already. That I just, you know, it got to the stage where my grandchildren were making fun of my films. Like they said, you know, grandfather, the last one was bad, but this one, my God. Now, when they start saying that, you know you've got to do something else. You've got to do something.
Brutally honest, aren't you?
So, yeah, so I thought I better keep some dignity and wait for something good to happen if something good comes my way. And it took 5 years before I got this script. And I read it, not expecting it to be anything. It was a little small French film. And I loved it. It's beautifully written. And I thought it was the right time to make this film because of the situation in the Middle East. But I mean, that's not my main reason. My main reason is because I like the film. But I thought it was time to say that people can live together and can love each other. You know, it's not a question of religion or race or color or all that. And that love is, you know, I always say that I come out of my room every day and I'm prepared to love people whom I meet. I'm prepared for love. I'm not prepared for hate. I'm not prepared for anger. But if I sometimes meet bad people, and I hate them when I meet bad people. But sometimes they happen to be of my color or religion. It doesn't matter to me. If he's bad, I hate him. It doesn't matter. If my cousin, I still hate him. But you can't hate people just because they're different. Or that's not the reason. If they're good, love them. If they're not good, don't love them. That's fair. I mean, it seems so simple and so easy to practice that philosophy that I don't understand how people don't understand that. That's all.
They continue to forget or
Yeah.
lose that, though, don't they?
No, but this film is a gentle film.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need, in the middle of all the films that one sees, the science fiction, the action films and all, you need a little gentle film where you come out with a smile and one tear, not many tears, just one tear and a small smile. And it's nice. It's a nice feeling.
I read somewhere something that you had said about this film that the character Ibrahim says many profound things, and you
Yes.
had to find a way to say these without sounding
Yes.
presumptuous. And
That was my problem when I approached the part, was that this is a man who's got this, what they call wisdom of the Orient, which is something very dangerous to play. It's like, you see it in all the very bad films, like, you know, things like the Thief of Baghdad and the Alibaba and things like that. Those are always these old wise Arabs or wise people. It's very dangerous. It's very boring to hear words of wisdom. It's the most boring thing in the world. You have to say wise things, but normally, like as if they were not wise things. So, you know, as an Oriental, I know this, that we have an oral tradition. You know, people have, in my generation especially, we have grandfathers who said wonderful things to us now and then. I remember things my grandmother told me, my grandfather told me, and I say it to my children, and they say it to their grandchildren. So these things are the wise things that one says. They're wise because they come from old people who have lived and who tell you something, and people who love you. And so I tried to find an approach to these scenes where it would not sound nor wise nor professorial. You know, not like the guy's teaching the kid something. He's just having fun. You see, this character has got some strange things. I had a view about the character, but I put it to the writer and the director. They didn't agree with me at all. They said, I didn't write that, and the director said, I don't want you to act it that way. But my view was this. You will see in the film that this man only exists when the boy is there. When the boy isn't there, you never see him. He's got this grocery in the street, which he's been at it for 60 years, and he never speaks to any of the customers who come in. They just pay and go out. And he only speaks to this boy. This is unnatural. So I said, maybe this guy exists. The reason for his existence is to make this boy happy. Because the boy is very unhappy. He's a very somber boy. And so I said to the director, I think, do you think maybe he's some kind of angel that's sent from heaven to rescue this boy? He said, no, he's nothing like that. Because they were afraid that I would play it angelically, which is even worse than being wise. They always prepare you to play things devilishly. You know, I don't know why. Anyway, I didn't do that. But anyway, it was in the back of my mind all the time, this thing. But anyway, I found a way, I hope, when you see it, you'll let me know, write to me or call me, that to make it a little amusing, a little light. It's like this old man had been waiting all his life to find a child to play with. Like he is a child himself at heart. And he doesn't speak to adults because they don't interest him. And he wanted to play with a child. And so he talks to him and plays with him as if he was a buddy of his, which is exactly what I do with my grandchildren, actually. You know, I play with my grandchildren. I remember when my son was growing up, when he was 4, and I lived with my wife. When my wife was out, we used to play cowboys and Indians. I was the Indian because he wanted to be the cowboy.
Of course.
So I had the bow and arrow. And I used to disguise myself and paint my face and climb on the cupboards. And I used to shoot these arrows with a rubber thing on the face. And I broke all the Ming vases that my wife had. These very precious things that we had at home. And when she came in, I always said, it's him, it's not me. And I refused to ever admit it was me. And he was going crazy. He says, but Daddy, it's you. You broke it. I said, I didn't break it. You broke it. You broke it, you bad boy. Naughty boy. And my wife doesn't know to this day that I broke this thing. But you know, kids love that because they feel, because if they were playing with another kid, the other kid would do that. They would say it was him. So what's the point? So they like, once you establish this relationship of love and playfulness, then you can educate them. Then you can be, I was very disciplinarian, when I said, you go to bed, there's no answer. That's it. He just walked away and went to bed. Because I had established this playfulness. It's a quality of time you give to children that is very important. Not just the time, but what quality of playing with them and making them feel you're his friend and that you love him. When a child knows that you love him, then you can discipline him because you know he knows you're doing it out of love, not out of just being a fascist.
Felisa Kazan asks sort of a follow-up question to what you were just talking about here. But what if a director has a concept that's different from the script or from your idea of the character? So you come to the director and you say, I've got this idea of playing it, with this in mind, and they say, oh, no, but you were able.
I don't think the very good directors do that. They have a concept, but they discuss it with you. I'll tell you a very good example of that. There was a great director, one of the greatest directors, I think, ever in movies, whose name was William Wyler, who you all have maybe seen the film. Great. I made Funny Girl with him, and he was 80. And I had heard that he was a director who kept saying, do it again. That was lousy. And you did 60, 70 takes. There's a very famous true story about him making a film called Wuthering Heights with Laurence Olivier. And after 30 takes, Olivier came to Wyler and he said, Mr. Wyler, I have done this scene 30 times in 30 different ways. Could you please tell me how you would like me to do it? And Wyler said, better. To Larry Olivier, our idol. So before shooting the film, I had lunch with him. I said, now, Willie, if you say these things to me and keep me doing 70 times, I go crazy. Without telling me why, I would go crazy. He said, look, you're a professional actor. You show me your wares, your goods, and I will choose. He said, I'll tell you a story. I was making a film where there was Sir Ralph Richardson. And I had set up a shot where he had to come in through the door, hang up his hat and coat and go out of the frame. And when Ralph Richardson came, he said to Wyler, he said, but there are many ways to hang your hat and coat. How would you like me to do it? He said, show me. So he said he did it 7 times in 7 different ways. And I said to him, can you hang your hat like in the 3rd time and your coat like in the 5th? He says, that's what I expect from an actor. Show me, you know. I will judge if it's good or not. And he had impeccable taste. You can say these things only if you have perfect taste in choosing what was good about it. And with Barbara, it was easy because with Barbara, even when you said it was great, print, she used to say, can I try it once more? I have another idea. I can do it better. I can do it another way. You know, and everybody on the set had found her wonderful. She had done this scene wonderfully well. She said, I want to try it again. So she was even worse than Wilder. He said it's good. And in fact, when she did it again, it was better.
That's great. Alex Corvette asks, what was the casting and audition process like for the film Dr. Zhivago? Did you have to read for it?
No. I'll tell you what happened. When I read that David Lean was going to make Dr. Zhivago, so I bought the book quickly. I was making a film in Yugoslavia called Genghis Khan. And I was in a hotel this was in the communist time, and I was reading the script, and I was wondering what part I could play. So I found the part. I thought maybe I can do that, and I talked to my agent, who was at the same time David Lean's agent, and I said, could you ask David if he could cast me in that part? I think I could do that part. It was the part that eventually Tom Courtenay played. You know, the part of Pasha, the eventual husband of Lara, and who became a general. And so I was sitting playing Scrabble with Telly Savalas in the hall of the Metropole Hotel in Belgrade, and the phone rang, and they said, it's your agent. So I rushed to the phone, and he said, I talked to David. He doesn't think you're right for Pasha. I said, oh, shit. So I'm like, he said, but he's asking you if you would consider the title role. I said, what do you mean the title role? He said, Zhivago, Yuri Zhivago. He's asking you to play that. Yeah. I said, sure, I'd consider it. So I rushed and reread the whole novel again, which because I had read it to read the role of Pasha, that this is a thing like this. I read it again the same night. And from that moment, when I had to finish the film of Genghis Khan, where I was riding a horse holding a lance or a sword or whatever, and I had a helmet on my head. And she was supposed to be a very rough person, a conqueror, Genghis Khan, a Mongol. I was playing him very gentle, like poetic. For me, he was a poet. Yes. I couldn't get it out of my mind that I was going to do Dr. Zhivago.
David Lean has the reputation of being a very demanding and difficult director. How did you find him to work with?
I don't think so, no. I don't think anyone will tell you that. He's demanding in the sense that he tries, every shot for him is like making the whole film. He wants it to be perfect. I mean, we used to wait sometimes half a day or a day for the cloud to go from here to here. He said, I want this cloud to be there, not there. So everybody's sitting there, thousands of people. Trucks and things, in the middle of nowhere, because he always shoots his film on locations where the producer can't go. Too uncomfortable, no hotels, no good hotels, no good restaurants, nothing. He can't moor his yacht. There's the places where you can't moor your yacht at all. No ports, nothing, no water, no sea. And so, in that sense, he was difficult. But with the actors, he didn't like actors. He didn't like the social company of actors because he told me they're very boring. They always talk about themselves. I'm not interested to hear about what they have to say about themselves. But when he was working with them, he loved them. During the time of work, he loved them. For instance, he used to do something fantastic, which is when an actor had a tiny part, one day shoot, he used to have the most beautiful mobile home of the lot. He was the star of that particular day. He made him feel like a star. When he was using it, for him, they were his tools, what made his film. And so he treated them extremely well when they were working with him. He was extremely patient with actors if they were good. Like he explained to me from the beginning, he said, look, if I feel that an actor is giving me 90% of what I want, I will stay 1 month to get the extra 5 or 6% and make him give me 95%. But if I see that an actor is giving me 50% of what I want, I know that however long I spend with this actor, I can only get 60%, and it's not worth the wait. The difference between 50 and 60 is not very important, but the difference between 90 and 95 in quality is enormous. You know, it's almost perfection is something wonderful.
That's great. That's a great story. Um, Rachel Castle asks, in Dr. Zhivago, the credits list Tarek Sharif as young Zhivago. Was that your son?
Yes.
Did he go
It
into
was
business?
my son. This was another very intelligent ploy that he employed, the ploy that he employed, the ploy that he used to make me enter into the part. What he did was he asked me if I minded having my son play me as a boy. And he started the shooting of the film with that work of my son. And he said, Omar, could you please direct him? You know, tell him what to do. And by doing that, it lasted about 20 days, the shooting of his work. Gradually, I understood more and more the character because I understood I had to tell him as a child what he had to do. It's very difficult he was only 7.5. And it's very difficult because there are things that are not natural that you do when you're acting. There are technical things sometimes. Like, if you see ever the film again, and that's just the beginning of it, you will see that at the point he is looking at the grave of his mother, who is being buried. And, boys, they don't understand death really. He's looking at his mother, and there's a leaf, an autumn leaf that comes and stops on her face. And because he's going to be a poet later, so he's already an artist, he views beauty in a different way. So he wanted the boy to look, and see that it's beautiful. She looks beautiful with this leaf on her face. And then he had to look and see where it comes from, and follow like that and look up. And there was that tree with the leaves flying in the autumn, and that's where the music first comes in, that famous music. And then his aunt calls him. She says, Yuri, and he's so lost in contemplation that he doesn't hear her. Now, of course, a child hears when you call him. So I was explaining to him. I said, now look, the first time she says Yuri, first of all, I said to him, in order to concentrate on this tree, I want you to look at it and count the leaves. The tree was very far away. So if you see the film, poor boy, he's mumbling, he's just going. He's watching the leaves fly away. And I wanted him to look very concentrated because the tree was far, and therefore the look would be more intense looking to counting the leaves, which are very far away. And then I said, the first time she says, Yuri, I know you're going to hear it. Don't look. Go on counting the leaves. And the second time she calls you, when you're you're somewhere away thinking, you can't just turn your head and look like that, which a child would normally do. You tell him the first time you don't look, the second time you look at her. So he would go like this, and the second time that was not normal. So I said, I'm going to stand halfway between your aunt and halfway and the tree. So that when she calls you the second time, you first look at me and then at her. So you can't explain to a child to do naturally. You have to use a trick. You have to say, look at me first and then look at her. Just quickly, look at me, and once you've seen me, look at her. And it gives the impression that he woke up from some dream that he was having. So things like that. So by teaching him all these things and directing him, it made it much easier for me when I started playing my own part. I was playing him grown up. That's all.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We have several questions in here from people asking if you saw the remake of Dr. Zhivago, and if so, what you thought.
I saw the other day. I had a half hour before I went out for my first interview, and I saw the first part of it, and I thought it was beautifully done. So it was nice. But you know, television is different because
Very different.
television, the tempo of television should be slower than the tempo of movies. Because when you're sitting at home comfortably, and you've got your feet up and you're fixing yourself a drink and you're sitting happily, and you have the lights on, the room is not dark, you don't want to be rushed. You're watching, and if you want to get up and go to the toilet, or if you want to get up and fix yourself another drink, I say go and put the children to bed, whatever. You know, you can, if you're watching it on video, you can stop it and wait and make yourself a drink and put it on again. But when you're in the cinema and you're sitting in chairs that are not yours, and the whole place is dark and there's only one luminous spot in front of you, which you're concentrated on, and you know that you'd better not want to go to the toilets because you're going to step on people's feet and all, and you're going to miss a big part of the film. So you need the action to be slightly faster than television, you know, or more intense, or you know, you can't allow yourself, except special films like Antonioni or something, you can't allow yourself to let the audience, you know, down, go to sleep. And so it's not the same technique. It's not the same technique nor of directing, I think, nor even of performing. See, when you're performing, when you're doing a piece, a play or a film, you have some important scenes. And to lead to these climactic scenes, you have a lot of things you have to do in order to get there. Like, sometimes they want you to go get up and get out this door. The director needs a shot of you getting out of the door. Now, maybe your character asks you to go slowly and walk out of the door. You mustn't do that. You must run out of the door. And then you have to direct, but the director tells you run. I said, why should I run? What's my motivation? He says, I just want you to get out. I need a shot of you going out of the door. And then when you get to the climactic scene and the audience goes like this, now what are they going to say? They're going to sitting there excited. You mustn't be fast. You must let them enjoy the scene. If it passes too quickly, they're very disappointed. So what you do is you save time and you spend it on the climactic scenes, on the big scenes, on the important scenes. Because then people are prepared to wait. They're sitting there. What's he going to say? What's he going to say now? And how's she going to react? My God. And you know, and you make them wait, you know, when you've got them in the palm of your hand. It happens in the theater too, you know, you feel it even more because you feel the audience. You know when they're silent, when the silence is beautiful, they can wait. But and if you're doing a comedy and they start fidgeting, you better, you know, not
trouble.
I remember I played the comedy in London for 1 year in the theater, and at the audiences are very different depending on the days of the week. You have your Monday audience and your Tuesday and the matinee audience and the soiree audience. And sometimes, it was a fuss. I had to make them laugh all the time. And sometimes they didn't. So the director had told me, on this scene, you do it sitting down. Well, when they didn't laugh, I got up and did something, you know, something idiotic. I couldn't stand sitting there and while they weren't laughing, you know. So for a stage actor, you are the boss when the curtain comes up. The director has done his work. If it doesn't work, you've got to cure it. The important thing is to make the audience have a good time.
Could you talk just a little bit about your experience on Lawrence of Arabia?
Yeah. Well, that was my first film. First of all, I had to have a screen test. Now, in the screen tests, they flew me from Egypt. I was an Egyptian actor. I had made about 20 films in Egypt, Arabic films. But I really didn't know anything, really. I did everything for real, you know. I thought acting was just doing everything, for, which is true. You have to do it for real, but you have to control it a little bit. And so I went there, and I had to do a screen test, and I had to do a scene with Peter O'Toole, which was a very intimate scene. So Peter, God bless him, he said to me, "Come with me." We were in the desert, and he said, "Come and walk in the desert with me." And we walked in the desert. He said, "Go and walk about 30, 40 feet away from me." I said, "Okay." I went there. And we walked across the desert, far from each other. And he said, "Now, let's do the scene. Shout it to me." And we screamed, we yelled the scene across the desert, one to the other, very loudly. And then he said, "Let's go do it now." And we went, and we were whispering it. And it was so easy. All my nerves had settled because I had screamed it for about 15 times.
Yeah.
And when I had to just whisper it, it was so easy. You know?
What do you think made
It was a wonderful idea.
It's a great technique.
And he remained my friend till this day. He's my best friend. And, well, he was a very clever actor. He's a tremendous actor. And so I got the part, thanks to Peter a bit. And thanks to the fact that the other guy they were looking at had green eyes. And the director said, "I don't want an Arab with green eyes." He said, "I don't want a disguised European. Get me a real guy." And he looked at a lot of photographs, and when he saw mine, he said, "If this boy can speak English, bring him over here." That's all. It's true. Yeah, he had a good mind about it.
Yes. Patty Balian asks, in Lawrence of Arabia, you lead alongside Peter O'Toole the United Allied Arab Army. Can you please describe for us this experience and your feelings, as many of those players in the various tribes of the Arabs were direct descendants of the actual warriors of the period?
Yes. We had, as all the extras in the film, all the actors who were extras, who rode the camels and the horses and all, were the Arab Legion, the army of King Hussein. And they were all tribal people, Bedouins, whose grandparents had lived this Lawrence of Arabia. They remembered Lawrence of Arabia. And they remembered my character too. Ali ibn al-Hussein, his name was, his real name. And when we were learning how to ride, they were teaching us how to ride camels. We spent 3 months in the desert. And they wanted me particularly to ride better than the English. They said, "We are going to teach you things that we're not going to teach him." But I told Peter about what they taught me. So no, they were, but they were, you know, they were the army. They were disciplined. They were ordered by the king to do everything that the director said, and we had no problems with that.
Did you have the opportunity to speak with them?
Yeah, I spoke with them a lot. We used to go, Peter and I, we used to go and eat with them at night in their tents. They used to make a big, what they call a mansef, which is a lot of rice, and they have a sheep kill. And the guest of honor, they give the eye to. So they used to, you know, the guy used to give me the eye or give Peter the eye, which is something. I swallowed so many eyes, but I never chewed one.
Oh, yeah. You could have been on Fear Factor, you know that thing?
No, it was a great experience. It was like, for me, being in the army, because it lasted 20 months. There were no girls at all, nor in the cast, nor in the crew. We were not allowed to, nobody was allowed to have a girl there, because they were afraid, because we were living in a camp, that there would be some funny business, you know, somebody's wife would go with somebody else, and then it would disrupt the shooting. But I was lucky. I had a female camel. Peter had a male camel.
I'm not going to touch that. Okay.
It's that sort of time. It's the late show.
There you go. There you go. Bryant Krause asks, Zhivago, Arnstein, or whatever other roles you played, Who is the most like Omar Sharif?
That's very difficult. You know, I never think of people being like me, not because of it, because I wouldn't know how to play me. Because I, I had to do it once for Arnstein, for instance. I had, when I was cast to play the part, which was something completely new to me, musical with Barbara Streisand, Nicky Arnstein, New York Jew. So I got myself a coach and I worked on a New York Jewish accent. And I went the first day on the set, we rehearsed, Barbara and I opened my mouth and spoke. And William Wyler said, "Stop, Omar, what are you doing?" I said, "Willie, I'm doing Nicky Arnstein."
Yeah.
He said, "No, no, I'm making a film about Prince Charming and the Ugly Duckling." He said, "No, Prince Charming has a New York Jewish accent." He said, "Prince Charming has your accent. I met you at parties. That's why I cast you. I want you to speak like you speak." I said, "Willie, but I can't do. I mean, what do you want me to do? Play me?" He said, "Yeah." I was completely flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. You know, it took me so long to adjust to the idea of playing. Impossible. How can you play you? You're so shy.
Did you think he was wrong?
He was right. It turned out he was
Right,
right.
but in the moment,
Because
did
the
you
critics
think, yeah.
said Omar Sharif doesn't speak like Nicky Arnstein.
Yeah, right. He
But
just plays
if the
himself.
film made money,
Yeah.
he was right. He was definitely right.
Did you feel that when, you know, at the time, or did you feel like maybe he wasn't
Yes,
right?
I mean, she was so wonderful. I'll tell you something. The funny girl is Barbara Streisand. Barbara Streisand it was her first film. I had never seen anyone like her. No one had ever seen anyone like her because she was completely different from all actresses I had ever seen in my life. Physically, she was different. You know, she didn't look like any other actress. She didn't act like other actors. She was brilliant. That part was made for her, and she was made for that part. And forever, it will be her part. She owns that part. I can't imagine anyone else playing Funny Girl except her.
Edwin McCready asks, what are some of the differences between working in Egyptian film, auditions, and, you know, what kinds of working conditions, and what you encountered once you came to Hollywood?
Well, the actual making of a film is the same, except the scripts were bad.
Wait, there or here?
No, over there.
Oh, okay,
No,
good.
we
Yeah.
had some here are pretty lousy too. But what the people liked in Egypt at that time, it was in the 50s, and that I had my career in Egypt, and they loved melodramas, and they used to measure the success of a film after the audience left to see if the floor was wet with tears. The more it was wet, the more film was doing well. You know, that they loved crying in the cinema. There was terrible melodramas. We used to remake all the Italian melodramas and all the old. I made a film of Anna Karenina with my wife. You know, tremendous melodrama as well. But the films were, we had one or two good directors. Yusuf Shaheen, who was a good director. He's the one who discovered me in Egypt, and I made my first 3 films with him.
How did he discover you?
Well, he knew that I wanted to become an actor, and he had been at the same school. He was older than me, but he was an alumni of my school. And is that what I would say? Alumni?
Alumnus?
Alumnus?
Alumni? I don't know.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. He went there too.
Alumni, it must be a plural, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, alumnus, whatever. Anyway, he saw me sitting having a cup of tea in one of the cafes in Cairo. And he said, "I heard you were leaving." I was going to go to London to study acting. I mean, to pass an audition to be accepted in one of the acting schools there. And I had my ticket. I was leaving in about a couple of weeks. And he said, "I have a film. And I have a leading part for a young man like you." I was 21. And he said, "But it's the biggest star in Egypt is the leading lady, and she has to first accept you. So we will go and have tea at her place, and she will look at you and see if you're good."
You're acceptable. Yeah.
So I went and had tea with this lady, and she said to me, "Can you act, do something?" I found that so rude. What does she mean? I'm here to have a cup of tea, not to act. So, as I knew she didn't speak English, I did a speech from Hamlet. I did the Get Thee to a Nunnery speech. I did. And I thought she's not going to understand anything, but she'll be ashamed to say so, and she'll say it's very good.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. She said, oh, he's a great actor. And that's how I got the part.
That's wonderful.
I never forget that speech because that's what got me there.
That's wonderful. Neda De Jesus asks, how did you overcome the barriers placed in front of you by an industry that still to this day discriminates talent with an accent?
It's not that this discriminates talent with actor. It's difficult to find parts. I mean, I am the only actor in the world who is foreign to all film industries. I mean, I'm foreign to the French film industry. I'm foreign to the Italian. I'm foreign to the English. I'm foreign to the American. I'm foreign to the Spanish, because I have a particular accent which is neither of all these. Now, if I work to make an accent, it sounds terribly phony. I tell you the truth, I've tried it, it's no good. But when you are young and you're successful and you bring money at the box office, they don't mind. They adjust. You know, they had me play German Wehrmacht officers. I played in Night of the Generals with Peter O'Toole. I was playing a colonel of the German army. Being an Egyptian. I mean, I always say Hitler was turning in his grave.
Well, good then.
An Arab playing a German, and not Aryan, that's all. But then when you get older and when you're not a box office draw, which is now my case, it's very difficult. So now I'm confined practically to find good parts for old Arabs. Because if they need an old American, there are a lot of old American actors that they can use. If they need an old Italian, they get an old Italian. So what parts can I find? That has been my problem. See, I started very strongly. I did some very successful films. And then I did about 5 films which were flops, but with great directors. I mean, Fred Zinnemann, Sidney Lumet. I worked with really the best people. And I had a series like that just went sour. And when in this industry, when you do 3 or 4 or 5 flops, you're out, you know. That's it, bye-bye. And so now I only could get the sort of mediocre to bad films to make a living, which I did. Those were the 30 years I was mentioning.
You know, there's not an actor out here who doesn't feel after they complete a project that they're unemployed and they'll never work again.
It's true.
To go through even a period where you're working but you're not proud of the work must take its toll on you.
It's terrible.
What got you through?
It's terrible suffering to go out of your house and you have a lousy page of dialogue to speak with an idiot director. I mean, that is the most difficult thing to do for an actor. See, if they ask me, what is the most difficult part you ever played? I can name for 30 years parts which were lousy with terrible directors. They're very difficult to play. It's easy to play a good part with a good director. No problem at all. When you have good lines to speak and a good director who knows how to direct you properly. Especially, I don't like directors who respect me, nor for my age, nor for my name. I like them to say, you're lousy, you know, when I finish the scene, because I need to be pushed to dig into myself deeper, to work harder. If you know, I do something sometimes, I'm a bit lazy like all Orientals, as we all know. So, you know, the director says that was good. I say, okay, if you like it, it's fine. I don't mind. You know, I knew it was not good, but who cares? You know, if he likes it, it's show.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, whatever I do, it's not going to save this film. This film is going nowhere. Anyway.
There you go. Well, unfortunately, I know you have to go catch a plane.
Yeah.
I would hope that you would come back and have full conversations with us.
I will.
Please enjoy the series you have.
I will.
Thank you so much.